Hello and welcome to the Sacred Gates Ascension podcast. My name is Illura and welcome to the podcast. If you are new here, welcome back. Thanks for listening and enjoying this journey with me. And if you're new here, please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can receive the regular videos that I'm offering. So what I wanted to do is just do a video briefly on the difference between a metaphysical experience, meta meaning bigger, metaphysical meaning larger physical. So when we often go into spiritual practices, we often forget that everything's physical. Really everything in this realm is physical. But when we go into that metaphysical, we are experiencing the larger than physical, or the greater physical experience. Not larger than physical, but the larger physical, metaphysical experiences. So I wanted to do a video on the difference between a metaphysical experience and then actually the experiences of releasing karma. I will be doing a video on karma, and as it was asked of me to do this, and I think it's a great topic because it's a great way to start to look into why would we want to do spiritual practice and develop our consciousness, because it's very much linked inherently, intrinsically in our nature to do this because of karma, but we'll leave that for another video. But the difference between simply a metaphysical experience and then a metaphysical experience where you're actually releasing karma. What I've noticed with a lot of mainstream spiritual techniques and practices is that a lot of them are the mechanics of the technique, the principles that those techniques are based on. What they tend to do is they tend to add. They're additive practices, and what that means is that you are basically you've got someone else does the techniques, does the healing on that person, and what the effect is that they're just putting a new program over the top of the old program. So rather than dissolving the programs that are already existing through providing space and working with what I call the mental stream, then instead you're just putting another program over a pre-existing one. And this will be why some healers and practitioners will say, look, after you've had a healing with me, you can't go and see anybody else because it'll just undo all the work I've done. So people who generally say that are often of an older generation of healers, and it can also be just a sign that the way they do their training and the path that they're on is more based on adding rather than subtracting. I sound like a maths teacher, but mechanically we need to look at what we're actually doing so that we can progress and learn and make choices based on really what it is that we want. So for example, at the Sacred Gates, the practice of Teshara, the practice that we do is a subtractive practice, and what that means is we're not adding, we're actually creating space, and through creating space, what is already there is able to dissolve and release and be let go of through knowing how to move through time and space with the mental stream. And I will be doing other videos on this because it's foundational part of what we do at the Sacred Gates, and not just at the Sacred Gates. There are other lineages that work based on subtractive principles. But if you're using additive principles and practices, you will find that you just put a lot of programs over it. So I don't want to disrespect anyone, but often you'll find with the NLP practitioners, sometimes they can get entangled very much in their mental body and their physical body, because there's so many programs. They're just always replacing programs upon program, and rather than dissolving and releasing, I do find that there's not as many streams of practices where they are doing subtractive methods. It's a lesser known kind of area of the spiritual mainstream. And so the difference between having a metaphysical experience in your practice, have that experience. Now, if you have the same experience and you're using subtractive methods, then you are releasing. You're still having that metaphysical experience, but you're releasing it and anything else while that experience is moving through you. Whereas if you are using additive principles such as using your imagination and many other principles, then that metaphysical experience will not allow you to release. And so you may end up with many, many programs all laid on top of each other. And because of that, entanglement is bound to occur. So it's kind of like having, rather than, all these telephone lines, like in India, if you look at Indian telephone lines, I just came into my mind a funny meme of Indian telephone lines with Spider-Man stuck in. I saw that a few years ago. But if you do have all these programs overlapping, eventually overlapping turns into entanglement, and that will affect your mental body, your physical body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, and also your karmic body on where you go in life. So I prefer personally using the mind stream and moving through, and I will do a video on that because it does deserve to have its own definite video. And when you use subtractive methods, you end up having, for me, what I experience, very much pure substances, and you're always letting go. So for example, many, many years ago, when I was interested in protective rituals and grounding and protecting myself psychically, white light methods, and another additive method is imagining roots growing out of your feet. These are methods that people use. I use them too. But what I found now is that the best protection for me is at the energetic level, and which includes your own mind attacking yourself, of course, is that you basically release and relax your body, and release through time and space, through observing the impermanence of every moment and letting go and creating a lot of space within your being, which is a practice within itself. And that allows anything that is there or trying to attack you, it basically just moves through you. Now, this is not the same as just being like a vegetable and letting people attack you. It's absolutely not the same thing. It's very, very different to that. So it is a practice that is extremely healing. I can't emphasize enough how much learning how to move your consciousness as a substance through the stream of thoughts and emotions and narratives and all these constructs and things like that come from society, that come from our family, that come from our own narratives, that come from the media. All of these things kind of in a sense do attack us, and there is a way of dissolving them and releasing them. Sometimes with the older programs you need to dislodge them slowly and eventually they dissolve, but I much prefer doing that than adding new programs and things on top. So that's just a little insight into Teshara method, and therefore the difference, the purpose of this podcast was to just show that you can have a metaphysical experience, but if you're using additive principles in your techniques, then you will have a different outcome karmically than if you have the same metaphysical experience, but you're using releasing and mind stream techniques to stream through it. So in the end, the metaphysical experience is quite different because the outcome is different. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye bye.